Hey, thanks for joining me here at Catholic Breakfast. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the wisdom for marriage that we can glean from the pen of the great J.R.R. Tolkien. So the great J.R.R. Tolkien was married to a woman by the name of Edith, Ronald and Edith Tolkien. And they were married 55 years. And I want to tell you a little bit about their marriage, because Tolkien himself wrote about it, and there's some incredible wisdom I think we can glean from how he understood the dynamics of love in their marriage. Especially in today's day, I see this wisdom is just crucial. A lot of the couples that I get to work with, I'm privileged to work with as a priest and as a pastor, Tolkien has helped me understand how some of this wisdom could be extremely helpful today. A little bit of the background. So Edith and Ronald were early 20th century figures, lived for the first chunk of the 20th century. When they met, they were both orphans. Edith was 19, Ronald was 16. And, they were forbidden by their guardians from really being together or pursuing anything seriously. But by the age of 21, when Ronald turned 21 and Edith was 24, they were able to pursue marriage. And as quickly as possible, they got engaged and got married. After about 25 years of marriage, Tolkien's, their oldest son, or second son, I believe, named Michael, was 20 years old, an Oxford student, and headed off to the military. And Ronald Tolkien wrote his son Michael this letter in which he spoke about the relationship of the sexes, spoke about marriage. Here's what he said. "The romantic idea of men and women can take the young man's eye off women as they are. Women are companions in shipwreck, not guiding stars." And that idea that romantic idea makes men forget makes them forget women's desires, needs, and temptations. The romantic idea is that women are these guiding stars for them as opposed to companions in shipwreck. That idea inculcates exaggerated notions of true love as a fire from without, a permanent exaltation, unrelated to age, childbearing, and plain life, unrelated to will and purpose. So what's he getting at there? This romantic notion in Tolkien's mind leads some young men to see in their sexual partner a guiding star. Think of that as a kind of ideal. So you fall in love, which is a very mysterious thing. And it's true for women to a man too. I fall in love with this person. I'm overwhelmed by this person's beauty, by the potential. Or maybe in fact by the fact that this person seems to need no improvement whatsoever. And I'm helpless to say no to this person. In that sense, insofar as the person is idealized, this person is a kind of archetype of the perfect man or perfect woman. And then in that sense, the person is set up as a guiding star. I will pursue this person. I'm surrendering to this person. Now, Tolkien is saying here that's going to lead to a kind of disaster. It's much better. Why? Because the person is not an ideal person. The person is just as imperfect as you, maybe more imperfect. What he recommends here to Michael is that a man and a woman, even as they fall in love, recognize that they are companions in shipwreck. In other words, that both are existing in an imperfect fallen world and that they themselves are imperfect. The companions in shipwreck, stay with that image for a second because it's really helpful. If you've been in a shipwreck and the two of you are floating on the shards of your smashed boat, you both now need to find a true North Star in order to get to where you're going. And what he's telling Michael is that's a healthy way to look at marriage. You're companions in this shipwreck with your own weaknesses and strengths, and you're helping each other get to this destination. Think how the great philosopher Aristotle spoke of, you need to have a friendship, a transcendent third. And marriage is a kind of friendship. It's a friendship that's exclusive and faithful and ordered towards the good of children and of a family. Part of the adventure of marriage is recognizing that this person is not my guiding star. This person is a companion in the difficulty of a fallen world, and we're orienting ourselves to transcendent good. Now, practically, I encourage people that I work with in preparing for marriage, as early as they possibly can, to talk about what's the purpose of your marriage. I know one couple that said, the purpose of our marriage is to make as many people feel welcome as we can. So when that couple did well in business and then it was time for them to build a house, they built it with lots of extra bedrooms because they wanted to welcome not just their own children or adopt children, but to welcome friends and make as many people who are lonely in this world feel like they belong. They understood that their marriage needed a transcendent third. If the purpose is merely to gaze on the other person and to revel in that person's perfection, come on, we know that won't sustain the adventure of marriage. Fast forward to after Edith died. They had been married 55 years. Tolkien told his other son, Christopher, how difficult their marriage had been, which I wager became as something of a surprise to his son. Here's what Tolkien said after Edith died. Someone close in heart to me should know something about things that records do not record. The dreadful sufferings of our childhoods. He's speaking of he and Edith's childhoods. From which we rescued one another, but could not wholly heal wounds that later often proved disabling. The sufferings we endured after our love began. All of which, over and above personal weaknesses, might help to make pardonable or understandable the lapses and darknesses which at times marred our lives, and to explain how these never touched our depths nor dimmed the memories of our youthful love. After 55 years of marriage, what's Tolkien saying there? He's saying, we went through some dreadful sufferings in our marriage. It wasn't just we didn't rescue each other from suffering, but we were sharing in suffering. In their life, it took the form of how different Edith and Ronald were. Tolkien was an Oxford scholar. He loved Oxford. He loved high-minded conversations. He loved intellectual life. Edith was more of a socialite. She loved small talk. She loved tea. She liked the country. He liked the city. And that was a real struggle for her during his career. Let me finish in this little reflection on Tolkien and his understanding of marriage. Back in that letter that he wrote to Michael, listen to what Tolkien says here. Nearly all marriages, even happy ones, are mistakes. What he means there is something like, you're going to realize sooner or later that you could have done better. And guess what? Your spouse is going to realize that sooner or later. Why? Because neither of you are the North Star. You're companions in this shipwreck. You're going to realize there's someone out there who's not shipwrecked. Or at least they seem like they're not shipwrecked. They're the North Star. Of course, that's an illusion. And the painful thing is when a couple goes through a very serious shipwreck, the temptation is to think, I'm going to find someone who's on a boat that's not shipwrecked. Someone who's perfect, who's an ideal, who's an archetype of the perfect masculine, the perfect feminine. Tolkien realizes you're going to realize that insofar as you're married to an imperfect person, your marriage is a mistake. And in that sense, all marriages are a mistake, have this mistaken quality. But listen, now he finishes to his son, Michael. But the real, quote unquote, the real soulmate is the one you are actually married to. In this fallen world, we have as our only guides prudence, wisdom, rare in youth, too late in age, a clean heart, and fidelity of will. The situation of your boat, your circumstances, are not what make your marriage meaningful or good. What makes your marriage meaningful or good and strong are virtues. Your internal situation, prudence, wisdom, a clean heart, and fidelity of will. Lovely here how he says that's rare in youth, too late in age. It's such a shame when someone either in actual fact or internally opts out of marriage because they haven't developed wisdom or prudence yet. It's a hang in there. You're going to develop those internal virtues. And what's the greatest virtue to develop in marriage? He says, will and purpose. They go together, right? The purpose is, that's the North Star we're aiming at. And it has to be clearly defined, I think. And then the will is now we're going to choose that together. And everyone, that's another way to say the virtue of love, the highest of all virtues. The two of us in this shipwreck of our lives, recognizing that we're both shipwrecked and floating in this sea in this fallen world, and yet together can make the virtuous marital choice to choose our purpose every single day and to choose it out of love for the other. At the end of their lives, Tolkien left Oxford and they moved to this small town, I think kind of a seaside town, and to be honest, he hated it there. But Edith loved it because she could socialize. And in fact, he actually discovered a kind of new depth of satisfaction in his marriage because he was living for her, serving her. And that's what made them finally successful in marriage, realizing that they were companions in shipwreck. God bless you, and especially God bless your marriage or the marriages that you care most about. God bless you.